The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on DriveLock file protection, secure encryption for sensitive data. My name is Vanessa Cardwell and I'm Marketing Manager here at Network Utilities. I'm joined this morning by Steve Atkins, UK Country Manager at CentralTool Software. Today's webinar will give you an overview of DriveLock file protection and illustrate how to prevent unauthorized data access by IT administrators and how to easily encrypt the contents of files, preventing unauthorized access without having to change any access permissions. So to get started, let me very quickly take you through the agenda. Today's presentation will last about 30 minutes with an opportunity for you to submit questions, which we will answer at the end. Please use the question tab on the control panel to submit questions at any stage during the presentation. So I'd like now to hand over to Steve, who's going to give us an overview and a demo of DriveLock file protection. So we hope you enjoy the presentation and look forward to answering any questions you may have at the end. So I'm just going to hand over to Steve now. Okay, Steve.
Lovely, thank you, Vanessa. If you just bear with me one moment. Right, so thank you very much for that introduction there, Vanessa. As I said, my name is Steve Atkins. I am the Country Manager for CentralTools here in the UK. By way of an introduction to our organisation, just get the slide up. CentralTools Software is a German organisation founded in 2000. It is a privately owned company still today, and we have a number of offices around Germany, with our headquarters being in Ludwigsburg, just outside Stuttgart. We also have a number of offices around Europe, including the UK and also a North American office as well. Our technology, DriveLock, has been in the market for around 8 years. Originally, the focus for the market was the German-speaking areas, as you would expect for a German company. But over the last 2 or 3 years, we've very much branched out into the UK and North America. And I think to complement that, DriveLock was awarded last year the Computing Security Award DLP Solution of the Year. So really just confirming the push that we have as a vendor in helping organisations such as yourself protect your sensitive data. And with that, we have customers that range from 10 licenses up to in excess of 50,000 licenses, trusting DriveLock to give them file control, device control, but equally more importantly, the ability to securely protect data in motion or data at rest on servers. So really, by way of diving into the presentation, some things to consider. Whether you are a CEO, maybe an IT manager, or just an employee within an organisation, you need to be able to protect sensitive data and corporate data. This holds especially true today, as data breaches do present the single biggest issue to businesses from a compliance point of view, notwithstanding fines from organisations such as the Information Commissioner's Office, but also a piece that not everyone tends to think about, the damage to reputation. And if you take a look at the slide that we have up at the moment, these are just a selection of stories that have been in the news over the last 3 or 4 months around data loss incidents. Now, I won't go through all of these, but just really to pick out 2 or 3 of them. The top one there, Geo Amy, an unencrypted laptop was stolen from an individual's house containing the personal details of over 795 security staff. Now, these security staff were responsible for maintaining standards within prisons. So pretty sensitive information that's gone out on a laptop and that's then subsequently been stolen. If we then take someone like Kind, a charity, they had an unencrypted computer stolen from their premises with the contact information of families that are assisted by that charity. Again, embarrassing for that organisation, but equally potentially damaging for those families that had their details compromised. So if we look at the kind of 3 risk factors that we see around data today, first and foremost is the theft of data and devices. Now, is that the theft of data by a disgruntled employee, obviously given the news headlines we've had over the last couple of weeks of large organizations going into administration, there is a concern there that employees may decide to benefit themselves with taking data out of that organization. But equally, if you've got someone that decides that, okay, this information may well benefit me in the future, I'll take a copy of it, even if it's nothing to do with their particular job role. Just touching back on the previous slide of laptops or maybe devices being stolen, if you've left a laptop on a train or dropped a memory stick down in a pub or something like that, if that information gets picked up, it could be potentially valuable to someone else. If we move on to thinking about one of the other factors, which is the loss of devices, and really something to consider or think about yourself. Do you know how many USB sticks that you've ever used? Do you know where they are? And also, do you actually know what data they contain? I can certainly put my hand up here today and say I have 2 or 3 memory sticks laying around my office. Are they encrypted? Well, yes, they are. But in a previous life, I really couldn't tell you what devices I had and equally where they are today and what information was on that. And the third factor to think about, depending on your role within the organization, is compliance. Compliance, be it to the Data Protection Act and specifically Principle 7 for information security, how you deal with protecting data, how long you keep that data for, and equally what do you need to do in the event of a data breach. Also, if you're an organization that handles credit card transactions, adhering to the PCI DSS regulatory piece, and also if you're an ISO 27001 registered organization, what are you doing to make sure you adhere to those principles? Now, equally, you may have a number of clients or suppliers that recommend and require that you are able to demonstrate data protection of their data. So if you're not able to demonstrate that and that data is contravened in whatever way, you have a non-compliant to that particular contract, which obviously from a damage to reputation point of view, but equally financial loss could cause your business a lot of money. So if we look at the data really that should be protected within your organization, there are various types. From a compliance point of view, an absolute must would be the personal data of your employees, to include obviously home address, bank details, so on and so forth. But if you're a financial organization, the financial details of your company or the companies that you're trading with, we see time and time again with health service organizations having patient data compromised. So it's a must that information should be encrypted and protected. But equally, as I mentioned in one of the data incidents a minute ago, criminal records. If you've got an organization, if they're on the line today, that deal with police or prison services, any records you have there should and must be protected. From a best practice point of view as well, depending on the type of organization you are, if you should be looking after your intellectual property, does everyone in your business need to be able to look at the next blueprints of the widget that you're designing? Well, the answer typically would be no, they don't. So why give everyone the ability to view and potentially to copy that data? But equally, as a business that's maybe moving forward and planning for the future, you need to ensure that the business plans that you have in place are only viewed by those individuals or groups that need to be able to access those. So, 4 questions that you may wish to consider. If you've got a laptop and it's stolen, is your data protected? Hopefully, yes it is, because you've put in some form of full disk encryption in place, be it with DriveLock or another solution. But again, invariably there is still a stance that it won't happen to us. Our staff have had security awareness training, so then they know full well that they need to protect, look after that laptop, but you can't obviously negate against someone's car being broken into or someone's house being broken into. Secondly, more and more individuals, myself included, are using cloud-based services. So do any of your employees use cloud storage services such as Dropbox? If they are they utilizing that for company files? And if so, is that service encrypted? We trust organizations such as Dropbox, Google Drive, but their encryption, they don't have encryption in place there. So if you're putting company data into those types of clouds, you need to ensure that it's protected from prying eyes. Is sensitive information that's stored on your servers, such as research, personnel, and customer data, encrypted? Obviously, for the reasons I mentioned a minute ago, you don't want, does the IT administrator need to be able to look at sensitive personal data? No. Does John in marketing need to be able to look at financial records? No. So it's to ensure that that information is encrypted. And and the last one there is, if your company's data is lost on something like a flash drive or external media, does it remain confidential? So what is the solution for this particular area, for these topics and pain points that we've gone over? Well, it's evident. You need to encrypt your data. If you encrypt everything, and you therefore don't need to worry about the stuff that you didn't encrypt. We see time and time again today that where organisations have had a data breach or a data loss incident, IT are always the ones that carry the can and have to run around looking to see if there have been any other breaches within the organisation. So with DriveLock, DriveLock file protection specifically, your files are safe, be that within a private cloud or individuals needing to internally collaborate. And an example there could be that you may have multiple offices where individuals are working on information for your next widget, as I mentioned earlier. Previously, that's been either sent around on CDs or maybe on a USB stick in the post. But if you can utilize an internal cloud or private cloud to collaborate on that information and ensure that it's encrypted, it goes a long way to making sure that you stay compliant for your data protection policies. From a public cloud point of view, as I mentioned a minute ago, maybe you decide you need to work with suppliers, and more and more so we're seeing this as a cost-effective and a proactive way of working with our suppliers. It could be, as an example, that you're an accountancy business, and this is a very busy month for accountants, so the ability to be able to collaborate with their clients on their returns via using something such as Dropbox to put that information into is of benefit to both organizations and forward thinking. But obviously you need to ensure that information is encrypted. Or it may be that you need to be able to protect data that's sitting on maybe servers or laptops, flash drives, as I mentioned a minute ago. Maybe a good example there would be that you have your HR team that are working obviously on the personnel files for their for their employees, but Bob in marketing doesn't need to be able to get access to those details, and Alice in admin equally doesn't need to get access to those details. It may be that it's HR, the HR director, and the CEO that needs access. So the ability to be able to protect and encrypt that information that's at rest and static within your business. And DriveLock, through our file protection, is able to seamlessly and transparently encrypt those folders for you as an individual or maybe a group of people to be able to work on that data, but rest assured that to people that don't have privileges, they're unable to access that information. So if you've got data in the cloud, if you have data at rest on the network, with DriveLock file protection, you are able to easily and seamlessly encrypt that information. So with DriveLock file protection, you're able to control access to that sensitive data, as I mentioned a minute ago, using HR as an example. Now, it could be that you use this as a project-based solution for a group of individuals, maybe 2 or 3 within HR, 2 or 3 within engineering, but that equally could be opened out to an enterprise level. So with DriveLock, it's able to scale from 5 or 6 users right up to maybe 10,000 users, depending on who needs to have access to which, what types of information. You're then able to take as a next level on top of this the ability to encrypt data on your local disk, so maybe even on your laptop. you don't wish to go forward with a complete full disk encryption solution, but you have some information on there that should the laptop be stolen or lost, or even someone else looking at it, that that data is only available and accessed to yourself. With DriveLock file protection, you have the ability to be able to seamlessly create and encrypt folders for defined users and groups, and this can be done on a self-service basis, therefore empowering users or groups within the business without actually having to require assistance from the IT team. So it's the biggest overhead we typically see within a lot of businesses is that the IT department are having to run around, keep the network up and running, and generally just make sure everything works. So they can ill afford another level of work and things that they've got to do for the organization. So with DriveLock file protection, you are able to empower the individual or groups to easily create and mount encrypted files and folders, and I'll show this in a short while. And as I've mentioned again, the ability for DriveLock file protection to help you protect data on devices that hopefully you won't lose or get stolen, but rest assured, if they are stolen, the only cost to your business is the hardware replacement cost. You are safe and secure in the knowledge that that data has not been compromised. So what I'd like to do now is just to give you a brief demonstration on how easy it would be for a user to go and create a folder that is encrypted and secure for them to work either on their own information or collaboratively with someone in the cloud. So if I can just flick into the DriveLock user interface. So behind this there is a management console that IT would need to install and run, but once that is in place, and that can be up and running very, very quickly, once an agent has been pushed out to a laptop or workstation, the user will then have this DriveLock interface where they're able to do a number of different actions in allowing them to secure data whilst not impinging on their productivity. So if I click on the encrypted padlock here, we have a number of different volumes that I've recently used, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to very quickly take you through how I would create an encrypted folder in, let's say, something like Dropbox. So I've clicked on the icon on the bottom right-hand corner of my interface. I'm now going to select Encrypt a Cloud Storage folder. This now fires up a wizard. And I'm now into my Dropbox account, which I've already linked to the interface. So there are no folders. I have one folder already, DriveLock, which is already encrypted, which is for my own personal use. What I'm now going to do is create a new folder, and we'll call this Acme. I've created that. If I click Next, I now have a number of different options on how I want to authenticate to that particular folder. Now there are several different ways you can do this within DriveLock. The first is by username and password. If you use certificates within Active Directory, you can utilize those certificates. You don't need to have a PKI infrastructure to run this solution. DriveLock gives you the ability to use a root PKI certificate built into the solution, or you may wish to be able to create your own personal certificate. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we will use a username and password. So I'm now presented with my login details to unlock this folder, and I'm now prompted to create a password. For the purposes of this, I'm going to use a very, very weak password. Right, that's it. I've now, through just doing that, I've now created an encrypted folder successfully. If I click Finish, what I can now see as a user is that I now have a connected volume in my Dropbox account. If I right-click on that and hit Explore, that will now bring up my Dropbox folder. And just to show that, if I move back to Dropbox, you can hopefully now see a number of different folders. I'm now presented with a Windows pop-up telling me that that folder has been mounted, ready to be used. And I can see here quite clearly that that folder is there, and it's a secure folder because I have a little padlock right next to it. So I'm now able to utilize and start to put information into that folder. So as a user, it's completely transparent. Once I've created that folder and mounted it, I can either save my password so I'm not prompted for that password in the future, and then I can continue to work and place documents into it. Now, if as another employee within a business, I would be able to see potentially that folder. If I put one locally, I can open it up. I could see there was a file in there, but if I double click on that file, I'm not able to access it because I don't have the appropriate privileges to be able to view the document. So that is the encryption that takes place within the DriveLock file protection folder. Very transparent and very seamless. From here, as an individual, I then have the ability to be able to manage certificates around that. So if John in HR then wants to grant me access to a particular folder to work on collaboratively, I'm able to publish my certificate to him. So this is obviously the PKI piece, so the public-facing certificate. I can then decide how I'm going to publish that, maybe send it by email to him. Once I've done that, I will then have access to that folder to be able to work collaboratively with him on the data that we're looking to protect and secure. Equally, from a Dropbox perspective, I'm able to, if I wanted to, give you the scenario that I mentioned earlier on in terms of a client-supplier relationship. If I wish to give one of my suppliers access to a Dropbox because we need to look at cost of sales for the year, I'm able to create a login username for that individual and then create a password, and be it that I give that to him or her over the phone or via email, they're then able to access that Dropbox folder to be able to put information into there for us to share. The good thing there is it doesn't require a license from their point of view. It's you just sharing that folder with them. So that, as an example, is really how quickly you are able, as an individual or as an organization, to be able to create an encrypted folder to be able to collaboratively work, share, but most importantly, protect the data that your business holds as an organization, therefore mitigating against the threat of a data breach, but equally ensuring that you adhere to the regulatory compliance that you have to as a business. So in summary, DriveLock file protection is a cost-effective solution which will allow you as a business to maintain integrity with data security without compromising productivity. As a unique, as we've discussed here, the file protection will also give you the ability to be able to work and securely store data in the cloud. And that is the end of my short presentation. There are some further details that you're able to look at from drivelock.com. There's my details there if you wish to drop me an email. And equally, you're able to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where we talk about current security issues, also solutions around that, and try to to be an organisation, a vendor that is very much in the thought leadership piece. So with that in mind, I will hand back to Vanessa to see if we have any questions, and obviously to talk about the next steps and what's available to you as a business.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much indeed, Steve, for your presentation. Thank you everyone for listening. If you've got any questions for Steve, if you would like to submit those now using the question tab on your control panel, and I will put those questions to Steve to round off the presentation. So just wait a second and see if any of those questions come in. Okay, so Steve, here's one for you. Does DriveLock offer full disk encryption?
Oh, okay, yeah, good question. So the short answer for that is yes. DriveLock as a technology is a rounded solution from the ability to be able to, at its base level, provide device and file control. So giving a business the ability to say, well, 95% of employees don't need to be able to use memory sticks for their job role, so we will block those out, but then we'll whitelist the devices and individuals that need to be able to use those. To maybe something such as application control, so whitelisting trusted applications within the business, which obviously helps you as an organization protect yourself from zero-day attacks. But to answer that piece of the question, yes, we offer the ability of various options for encryption. So the file protection we've just touched on today is available either as a standalone solution if you already have maybe some existing encryption in place, or you don't believe it warrants having a full disk encryption piece. But equally, we offer the full disk encryption for laptops or maybe computers from that point of view as another layer of data security. And that's typically for data in motion, and also the ability to be able to encrypt containers on removable media devices. So some organizations prefer to use the route of having encrypted containers for USB devices or external hard drives. But increasingly, we also see that other organizations like to use file and folder protection because it gives them more flexibility in how they work and protect their organization.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for answering that one. And we've got one more, which we'll finish up with this. Can I, for example, when using Dropbox, share folders with clients and work collaboratively?
Yeah, absolutely. As we kind of touched on that in the brief presentation, this is one of the big key factors we see with DriveLock file protection. That you're protecting your sensitive data, your corporate data, but equally, if you are in a relationship and a contract with a supplier, the ability to be able to work on that information in structures such as Dropbox. So maintaining the integrity of that data, protecting it in Dropbox, but allowing two businesses to be able to work together to mutual benefit.
Okay, that's great. That's all the questions that we have there. Thank you very much to everybody and to Steve for joining us today. We hope you found the webinar useful. Our recording will be made available shortly, so you can keep an eye out on our website for that, and I will email the attendees a copy of that later on. And we invite you to start testing DriveLock today, so please get in touch with us on info@netutils.com if you would like 5 user licenses free for a year of DriveLock file protection. So do drop us an email if that's of interest to you. And if you'd like to speak to a solutions expert from NetUtils about anything you've seen today, then please do get in touch with us on the details that you see there on the screen. Thanks again, Steve, and thanks everyone for joining us today.
No, thank you. Thanks for your time.